A gimmick is defined as a trick or device intended to attract attention, publicity, or business. Now, in video games, this is usually displayed with things like pointless gameplay changes or tonal shifts that make a new game seem different and unique. Now, gimmicks can occasionally breathe new life into a COD game, but most of them, they've been rather ineffective. And today, we're going to look at 10 of the dumbest and most pointless gimmicks throughout Call of Duty history. These are those things that were changed from game to game, given a ton of attention from the developers, only to be ignored or hated by the community at large before being removed from subsequent COD games. So, let me know which of these you thought was the most pointless, and do me a favor, guys, if you're into comics, collectibles, pop culture, check out Chaos Comics, the YouTube channel, and the Discord server. We have soft launched it, and we've got a lot of really cool things going on both. If you want to follow my journey to opening a real-life comic store, definitely get over there and subscribe. Now, let's start off with operators in Modern Warfare 2019. I'm going to start off with a bit of a hot take, but am I the only one who thinks the operators were just one big gimmick? No? Yeah? Maybe? Okay, I know people like having their own favorite operator. Let me ask you an important question. Would you rather have operators or just a custom character maker? If COD went back to having the fully customizable characters, we could have so much more variance than what the operator system offers, and we could still have full character skins and voices if people still want to play as the Terminator or whatever. I think the operators themselves are cool, but having this system instead of a custom character like in Ghost and Advanced Warfare, one big gimmick to me. I think it's about time we go back to something that gives the players a little more control over how they look. Let's stay in the same vein. Operator mods in Black Ops 4. Now, Black Ops 4 changed a lot of things with the COD formula, introduced longer time to kill, got rid of regenerating health, gave the operators more of a spotlight in the moment-to-moment gameplay. Now, those changes received mixed reviews from the community. The operator mod system was largely ignored and went pretty unused throughout the game's lifespan. Operator mods were a new kind of attachment introduced in BO4, required 2 slots in your created class as well as a special wildcard, meaning it took 3 spots of your pick 10 to use them. Now, not every gun had an operator mod, and whether or not the mod was decent seemed to be a complete coin toss. Some of the operator mods, like the Skull Splitter and the Dragon's Breath rounds, were completely busted, while others were forgotten. I mean, operator mods never returned after Black Ops 4, so yeah, I think it was a gimmick. At number 8, weather variants in BO4. I know, we are just trashing BO4 right now, but it is what it is. The weather variants were weird. A little while after launch, Treyarch started introducing new versions of BO4 maps, but with weather. Now, some of these maps took place during the sunset. Some of them were in the middle of the night. Some during a rainstorm, and you already know a sandstorm. Now, it was an interesting idea, and certain implementations were actually good. Firing range night, but others like Hacienda Twilight and the infamous Arsenal Sandstorm, no. So I have to ask, with games like Rainbow Six Siege showing it's totally possible to have different weather for the same map, why did BO4 have to make different weather variants entirely different map selections? Why not just have a dynamic weather system on your base multiplayer maps? Weather variants were an interesting experiment, but they either went too far or they didn't go far enough, and they have yet to return. Ammo types in Vanguard. Now, Vanguard isn't the first COD game to have a few different ammo types for your gun, but it was the first to really expand upon it, making it into an entire attachment section in the gunsmith. However, most players probably agree it wasn't necessary. The different ammo types in Vanguard have a bunch of different secondary effects, and it can make the game feel inconsistent. Some of them are obviously much better than others. Now, I can understand having things like FMJ rounds or subsonic rounds in a COD game, but all the other crazy ones like incendiary and frangible rounds, they complicate things. There's no reason to have incendiary rounds available on almost every gun in the game, and having bullets that increase your enemy's view kick, that feels cheap, feels like a gimmick. I think Vanguard went a little too far with ammo types, and that's why it's on today's list. The Cold War score streak system. Why is it so hard to get a fair streak system? I mean, Black Ops 2 did it all the way back in 2012. So why do we keep trying to reinvent the wheel? Cold War score streak system was a bizarre mix of BO2 score streaks and Modern Warfare 3 support. Your points didn't reset upon death, but everything was really expensive, and there was a bunch of score multipliers that would theoretically speed the process up. However, there was also cooldowns on everything, meaning you couldn't run cheap streaks and earn them over and over again like you could in other COD games. It also meant there was a decent chance you were only going to get to call in your streaks one time, because if you were running mid-tier, high-tier streaks, the game duration and cooldown system essentially meant there wasn't going to be enough game time to call them in more than once. The Cold War streak system was hyped up by Treyarch as some awesome evolution of the concept, but I think it was pretty much unanimously disliked by the community. Personal radars in Modern Warfare 2019. Infinity Ward made the puzzling decision back in 2019 to completely change the way the minimap worked. Instead of giving you constant intel on enemies firing unsuppressed weapons, you now only had your teammates' locations on your HUD, and if you wanted to get those little fancy red dots from enemy fire, you had to have a personal radar in the air. Now, the personal was a kill streak that cost 3 points, so if you were decent at the game, you could pretty much have them up in the air 24/7, but if that's the case, why were they in the game? Plus, it was pretty frustrating to play Modern Warfare's multiplayer and know that you pretty much always had to either have a personal radar or UAV as one of your 3 streaks, because otherwise, you would be at a huge disadvantage due to your crappy minimap. On top of all that, personals seriously screwed with the flow of the game because enemy players were constantly stopping in their tracks to shoot them down. So the thing was supposed to encourage more aggressive gameplay, actually made the game pace slower. Personal radars were totally pointless if you ask me, and I'm hoping the concept doesn't come back in Modern Warfare 2. It returned in Vanguard, but at least in that game, you had a perk that enabled the classic minimap. Combat pacing in Vanguard. Now we're picking on Vanguard. Is it just me? I'm the only one who was expecting more from combat pacing. Multiplayer Filter was hyped up by Sledgehammer to be this awesome new way to experience COD, but I've barely even thought about it since Vanguard came out. Now, when deciding on a multiplayer playlist, you could choose between 3 different combat pacing settings. Tactical, Assault, Blitz. All this filter did was change how many people were in your lobby, but a lot of the maps, it barely made a difference. A lot of people thought Tactical and Assault felt exactly the same, and eventually, Sledge caved and realized they had overcomplicated it. In May of 2022, the combat pacing system was overhauled and assault pacing was removed entirely, meaning it was kind of a gimmick. It was kind of pointless. Blind Fire in Vanguard. I have no idea why this was added to Call of Duty. Blind Fire is a mechanic exclusive to Vanguard where you can crouch behind a piece of cover and blindly hold your gun up and fire at the other side. It's similar to how the Blind Fire works in Gears of War, except that that's a game with a much longer time to kill and a huge reliance on players using cover during combat. COD? No, it's a different beast. The Blind Fire in Vanguard is also wildly inaccurate, and its success relies on the user being in combat with some of the not best people in the world to play a first-person shooter. It was such a dud with the community that hardly anybody talked about it when the game came out. I honestly forgot it existed until we started researching the video. Vanguard is less than a year old, and I forgot one of the biggest gameplay changes. Divisions in COD World War II. I've done my fair share of complaining about COD World War II as it launched. I still think adding divisions to the mix was one of the worst decisions ever made. Instead of giving you 3 perks like every other COD game made after 2007, this one gave you a singular perk called the basic training. Then you had to choose between one of 5 divisions, at least 5 at launch, and then you would level up your division by getting XP and finishing challenges. The more you leveled up, the more special abilities you got for your character, but there wasn't any good reason. Divisions replacing the traditional perk system just meant you had far less customization than the normal COD, and it also meant people who started the game were at a statistical disadvantage over those who already put time into grinding their divisions. It's one thing to unlock perks as you go up, right? Or unlock perks as you level up, but divisions would literally give you 2 to 3 times as many special character traits as a new player would have, and that just made the game feel cheap at times. Now, I can respect Sledge for trying something new, and it was clear they wanted divisions to be some kind of hybrid between classic perk and old school class-based. It just didn't work. And at number 1 today, the biggest gimmick of all time, the SATCOM and Ghosts. Has to be, right? Still a point of ridicule in the community. IW really wanted to turn the page with COD Ghosts, create something entirely new for the Modern Warfare sub-series. Now, one way they wanted to shake it up was we put UAVs on the ground. SATCOM. Little box you had to place somewhere on the map, and it would give you a partial UAV. Then if you stacked it with other SATCOMs from teammates, you would eventually have a traditional UAV effect. May have sounded decent on paper to Infinity Ward, but in practice, it was complicated. It complicated one of the most simple aspects of Call of Duty. I get 3 to 4 kills, I get a UAV, end of story. But now I have to get this little box and hope my teammates also get little boxes, and they're good enough to keep earning these boxes over and over, so maybe we'll get a full UAV for about 10 seconds. Seriously, yeah, it was a huge mistake. I have no doubt in my mind. I'm going to call it the dumbest gimmick in COD history. And there you have it, my friends. I hope you have a good day.